I mean, it's like when you drive a car, um, you don't see the same things you see when you're riding a bike, and when
Mhm.
you're riding a bike, you don't see the same things you see when you're walking. But if you're sitting at home doing nothing, you're not seeing anything at all, right?
Yeah, you're not seeing anything new.
Welcome to Thinking Outside the Bytes with Nick Floyd and Kirby Forget. In today's episode, we're just generally pondering life over a cup of coffee on a Friday morning.
Hey, Kirby.
Hey, Nick, it's been a
Hey,
while. What's up
it
with
has been a
that?
long time. Well,
I'm looking at
been
you like it's your problem that it's been a while, but I think it's entirely on me.
definitely
Uh,
entirely on you.
yeah.
Not over here. Anything over here on this side.
No, it has been a while. A lot has changed for me since our last recording. So last time we were talking, I was living in a house in the Netherlands
Yeah, yeah,
with the
yeah.
fam, and now I'm living back at home in Oregon, in Corvallis, Oregon. Made the
Hmm.
decision as a family to move ourselves back home, be closer to family, all of that stuff. So it's been a bit.
Yeah. So you're calling it home now. That's pretty
Yeah.
advanced. Like you've only been there a few months now, and
Yeah, I mean I'm in a different house than I used to live in, but it's
mm,
definitely still more like home because yeah, a lot closer to family. Spending more time again with the parents and everybody, and so yeah, home. I'm trying to say something without sounding super cliche, about home being where family is or something along
it's
those lines.
home's where the heart is.
Yeah, home is where the heart is. Wow, you should get that on a little plaque and
I already
so.
do. You just can't see it. It's off
Oh,
camera.
okay.
That's
All
yeah.
right, all right, all right. Yeah, no, it feels good to be back home, but yeah, a lot has changed in life,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of an excuse though. Like this
Yeah.
is something that I really enjoy doing, and all this time has passed, and we haven't done it. We've chatted with each other several times, so I
Yeah.
think that actually could be a good topic for us to chat about. Is like sometimes things get in the way, life gets in the way. We don't make
Yeah.
time for the things that we think are. That we know are important because we're spending time on other things. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. The whole idea of life interrupted, right? It's funny. I was about to say, I don't have a I just moved excuse. I mean, story.
yeah. All right, fair, fair, fair.
But yeah, yeah, exactly, man. I mean, this is life notorious, right? We have a conglomeration of things we got to do and take hold of, and we complain about our schedules owning us, and there's all these kind of like tropes in our industry, especially to drive to this idea of performance. And I think I'm really kind of catching up on the idea that and performance is not the point. Getting a bunch of stuff done, like the millions of books that have been written on it, that's not the point. And I'm on the edge of discovering that the value is living, right? um, and finding where that is. You
Yeah.
know,
What do you see as living? Like tell me more by what you mean by that.
yeah. I was talking with a big group of people, and I floated the question out: what is success? And a couple of them, the classic, oh well, it's making lots of money and you know living on the road, whatever it is, whatever. I don't even know now. Like I'm so old.
Yeah, I don't think it's making money anymore. I hear a lot more living on the road, living a
Yeah.
free lifestyle. Definitely
Yeah.
hear more of that.
Yeah, and it's what's ironic, um, gosh, what's ironic, Kirby, is that as they were feeding back these answers, and a lot of them were kind of interesting, like hey, spending time with family and doing enriching things, and these are all like so good. But I realized that as we were all it's like me, I was involved, and we were all answering this question, and I realized that a lot of us are standing in this jail cell with the door
Mm,
open, right,
mm,
and we're waiting for someone to tell us to get out,
mm,
right? To start living that aspect of life, or like accepting that there's gonna be interruptions. Life's not gonna always go the way you want it to, but man, it's so rich. It's like having conversations like this, going for walks with the kiddos or whatever it is, man. And we're in that jail cell, doors open, man, waiting for someone to tell us that we're free. And I know this like kind of like getting deep here, but there's a narrative here that I think is beautifully unfolding. The older I get.
Yeah, so it's definitely deep thoughts for me, having had like 2 sips of coffee on a Friday, on an early Friday morning. But
Keep drinking.
yeah, no, I think we always have these like ideas of what we want to do and how we want to like tackle the day or go after things or do our hobbies or spend time with family or like all the things that we say are important, and then sometimes we just like end up on our phone or we end up like not doing those things. And I don't know, I haven't fully figured out why that is. Like I think that's it's like intellectually, you know, and even like in your heart, you know what's right, and then sometimes you just get like distracted and you spend time on the wrong things, or you spend time doing nothing. And by the way, I'm like a fan of doing nothing. That's actually a good thing sometimes too. But yeah, I don't know what it is. Like I don't know if you have ideas, or I'm still like honestly struggling with that, where I can like see the thing I want to do, and maybe I go chase something else for a while, or I do something easy or whatever, and don't like take the time to be doing the thing that in my head is the thing that I wish I was doing. It's kind of weird.
The book. So this book that we're supposed to be reading together.
Yeah. I haven't started it yet, though, oddly enough.
Definitely recommend when you start reading it. I'm going to read a quote out of it because that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. Because people are way smarter than I am. But in there, he talks about this idea of limit embracing life. And by the way, the book's named 4,000 Weeks: Time Management for Mortals. It's by Oliver Burkeman. And he says this, and see if this resonates with you, Kirby. Again, the limit embracing life, right? So we're always trying to level up, but we never talk about or think about, and this is general, but we never talk about, think about, or act in our limits. He says, the more you hurry, the more frustrating it is to encounter tasks or toddlers that won't be hurried, right? If no one else is on your timetable, if no one else has the urgencies and the import of what you think's important, all it's going to do is end up in frustration. And I know I've been there thousands of times in my life. When I'm like, why don't you see this as important? Yeah. Instead of going, hey, maybe it's not important. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's super interesting, because I definitely when I actually go after something I'm going after, I get like the blinders on. I've had horses before, so I'm thinking about blinders, although I've never had blinders on the horses. So anyway, distracting myself when I'm trying to focus.
I think I know now why you always struggle with life interruptions.
Figured it out there, did you? No. No, like when I do become single-minded on something, I kind of go 100% all in on that thing, and it does get kind of frustrating. Like a perfect example is, like, if I'm building something, like I'm out in my garage and I'm like putting something together, and there's like 3 other things I need to do that you're getting in the way of me doing that. I get like cranky. It is really, really difficult for me to have distractions when there is something that I'm like super laser focused on, to the point it is almost like painful. Like I can like feel in my head like my mood turning, and it's interesting that when that is happening, I kind of get that way. And I wonder sometimes too if that, like I have hobbies, you see things behind me, and like I go like all in, 100% all in. But what's interesting too then is, like, once I've gone all in and I've spent time and energy on that thing, and I've kind of like gotten it to a point, then I shift to something else and go after that thing kind of all in. And so I think I've been in this kind of repeated pattern of go all in, like way deeper than I should, to the point nobody should be like going in on something and then jumping to something
obsession.
else.
It's called obsession.
Maybe that's the word. So yeah, I mean, that definitely resonates with me.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know. I'm just hypothesizing here, but I wonder if instead of being frustrated at the frustration, we should use it as a signpost to help us understand what's going on, or use it as a litmus test to say, maybe I am too way in, maybe I'm missing something here that I should be tuning into, and it goes for anything. I notice when I'm like locked in on writing something, I've got like some new idea and I want to make it in the software, and I get interrupted or something happens, right? And it's like you were saying, it's kind of a slow drip. It's like a good coffee at first, you're like, you get this intensity and this heart pounding, like I got to do this. And then eventually it gets to where you just become anxiety ridden, right? Like too much coffee.
Yeah.
And if there is such thing, but I think maybe there's a maybe it's a signpost that we should be thinking about something a little different. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a case, because I think a lot of times those interruptions are actually really important. Also, like those interruptions might be like your kids wanting your attention to do something, or you ignoring something, a chore that's really important because you're focused on this other thing, and that feels like a distraction, and maybe you're not like present enough with the people around you when that's going on. I've definitely been in that mode, like gone into my little basement. It's not a basement, but and kind of tried to block all things out, like not intentionally, but I think it does happen a bit. And so I think you're right. I think kind of watching for those signals, those clues, those like distractions that are actually maybe more important than the thing that you're looking at. But I'm curious also then, like, if you're spending more time on that, like what of the big things that you're going after and that you're putting your mind into, like, are those important? And if they are, how do you manage all of that, like at the same time?
Yeah, because life is still present, right? Yeah. You've still got bills, humans to feed, and all that good stuff. Man, that's the question, right? Is if you can at least recognize when you're kind of going off the rails, because I always felt like anger, like anger and frustration, right? Those are kind of, I don't know, those almost feel unnatural and unwielding, right? Like you've got the fire's too hot, kind of thing to cook. And though I know it's okay, sometimes it's like really good to get kind of angry or whatever, and just go for a run or something. But I think putting your body in that state and in that position of mind, everything becomes blurry. Everything becomes either overvalued or undervalued, right? Everything is important. Nothing's important. And that's the point of anxiety. And I think that at least having that litmus test or being aware of it and then going, okay, so how am I going to listen to that? Right? Because when I'm frustrated, the only person I'm listening to is myself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wonder how you can kind of get that shock back into like the now.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, there's a bucket. I know all of us, like if you look around at our feet, you have these buckets of half-done projects. And then if you look right in front of you, you got a litany of other things. And someone told me there was I had this really interesting encounter with an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. To me, I would like to call myself that, but I never actually get anything done, so I can't do that. But he said this. He goes, if you find yourself in this constant state of frustration, he said, stop and ask, do I always feel like I'm behind? Do I always feel like I am caught in the ether of never getting anything done, but having a whole bunch to do and moving a whole bunch? And I said, I mean, oftentimes I feel that way.
Yeah.
And he said, that should tell you right away that something's broken, something's wrong. And
Did he tell you how to fix it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I'm still. I got like a few more chapters left. Okay.
All right.
That'll
solve everything.
But I think there's I think there's a staged thing here, man. And as we work through this, it's listening. It's like being okay. I'm aware. I'm frustrated all of a sudden. Why? and then having the courage, I think having the courage to stop and ask, or having the courage to go, hey, Kirby, man, I got stuck on this thing. Is this important? And you know, being a good friend going, dude, I think this is disproportionate to like something that's actually valuable. I'm like, okay, I'll listen to that.
Yeah, I think that awareness is really key to it, and yeah, I think I agree. You kind of get those like same feelings when this stuff is happening sometimes, and just recognizing when that's a moment to like break out, take a deep breath, and think. By the way, I noticed you have you held up a book that's open, and I see like multiple open books behind you. You're reading like 3 or 4 books at the same time.
Like right there. Oh, like,
you must be mirrored video, like next to your TV over
there. Yeah, I am. That's funny you mentioned that. I was hoping you wouldn't, but I'll answer it. Yeah, so at this point in time, I'm reading 4 books at the same time, and that sounds stupid, but there's an interesting side effect to doing that, and one of them is like with my daughter. The other one is with a couple of my guys, my boys, and then I have 2 that I'm working on with a VP and CEO kind of person, and all of these books they recommended, so that's key. And I'm half interested in 2 of them, really interested in the other 2. But as I read through these simultaneously and then have these discussions, I'm finding, and this is this whole thing about weaving life, and this may be nonsense or super profound, but I'm finding that all the narratives of all of humanity have a consistent thread. They have a consistent story they're telling, and it's beautiful because when I talk generally to these people, the books tend to weave together. Though they're distinct stories, they all have same like principles, and the conversation has become so rich, and so it's almost a kind of an act of discovery to see if, because I'm not generally a good reader, you know, like I just don't take the time, and if it's not a technical novel or something, whatever, but I've discovered something new about communication through the reading of 4 books simultaneously and having conversations with the respective people, and it's become very interesting. So it's more of an experiment right now, but I think maybe something I continue doing.
I want to pull on that thread a little bit. Like what is that? Well, pull on that thread, and you were talking about a common thread. So
yeah, that's good.
Overusing analogies here, but yeah, like tell me more. What are you seeing in common between the conversations around the 4 books that you're having?
Yeah, so there's so one of the books, the 4,000 Hours, for instance. So that this book, the premise, the theory is that you just have 4,000 weeks to live. That's it. Once they're up, they're up. You can't manufacture time, and it's not about being performant. It's about living. Right. Bottom line. Another book I'm reading is called Circe. It's about Greek mythology. And it's a fictional story that is about a power struggle and about humanity and how that just kind of like shears at the seams when pressed, right? Like what happens when there's pressure. And I've got another book that I'm reading with a couple of my daughters that's called City of Ember. I don't know if you know that one.
I've heard the name, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a really kind of easy read kind of thing. Feels like a Harry Potter kind of, but it talks about this human struggle and rising above, right? Like it talks about this whole city that's buried underground, and they're supposed to get out at 200 years or something, and they lose the box to help them get out, and nobody knows, and they keep just like doing what they're always doing. And there's some in the city, young folks in the city that are like, this is wrong. Something's wrong. Something is broken about this. And so all those chain together to this question that we're presenting right now. Something's broken about what we're doing. And how do we know that first? How do we wake up from that and go, oh, okay. Well, so then what?
Hmm.
And that's where all these stories have kind of woven themselves together of like this constant human struggle, but rising above it and doing something with that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I can see that, and I think that's, yeah. I mean, we do only have so long on this earth, right?
Yeah.
And that's been the case for the entirety of our species. So,
Right.
yeah, I could imagine that this has been weighing on people's minds for
Ever.
since the dawn, right? Like, and
Yeah.
so, um, yeah, that's super interesting, and I wonder if this is a thing we'll just forever be struggling about and
Mm.
try, like we think a lot of. It's funny to me how you think about how we evolve over time, and we think, we grow in our thoughts, and knowledge builds upon knowledge, and all
Yeah.
of that stuff, and then we still struggle with the same basic things. You read like old texts, old letters to people, and maybe they're
Yeah.
like far more flowery in nature, and we've lost like our poetic abilities there.
Yeah.
But like the underlying messages are still similar. We still deal with the same things that we have been
Yeah.
for time on time, and so
Man, I
yeah,
love that you brought that up. That like this idea about texts and handwritten notes, things that slow the human condition, right? Whatever it is. But there's such beauty in the legacy of the past. And you can remember these moments when you get wrapped up in like, oh, you read this letter maybe you wrote to your wife or something like that, or that your kiddos, you just, hey, I'm so proud of you and keep doing your thing, man. And you can revisit those moments in time. And so yes, while time is moving forward and is an unstoppable force kind of thing, we can certainly enjoy that past, right?
yeah,
That's not gone.
yeah.
And I think that's a part of living is feeling and connecting with people that we love, and again, just getting deep with only a couple sips of coffee, but there's meaning in that, right?
Yeah.
That seems to stick.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really the only thing that seems to stick over time. Like we think about legacy and all of that, but there's always a defined endpoint of a legacy, right? Like that
Yeah,
doesn't last, and so the I think it is more in the moments that you have with people and the memories you have of those moments. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely too deep for a Friday morning, man.
yeah,
What are you doing to me? Uh, like moving back home very much for me was also
mm,
about being closer to family again, and so I definitely am feeling that
yeah.
in the moment for sure.
I imagine when you walked, it's so funny. I think of it when you said moving home. I thought about that song by Dream Academy, Northern Town. If you haven't listened to it, listen to it. It's so good.
All right.
Make you cry. Well, it'll literally make you cry.
Yeah, I don't need that
Well,
right
and
now.
if it doesn't, then maybe you need some therapy.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But walking down an old street
Hmm.
where you used to live, and maybe the buildings have changed. People have definitely changed.
Yeah.
You those moments are electric.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it feels like you're touching the edge of life. Life you've already lived, but you come in contact with something that's old,
Yeah.
and it's creating a new experience in you. And I wonder if maybe that's the edge of the secret that we're looking for, is like, oh, I can have that right now. I don't have to wait for the past to be the past.
Yeah.
I can do that right now. I can be engaged and be present instead of like rifling through my phone or wondering if what 10,000 notifications are important.
If the important things is the memories and the times you've spent with people, then creating those is also the most important
There you
thing, right? Like living in that moment to create the thing that's going to be the thing you remember, even if it was some silly thing that happened. Like my brother and I will tell stupid stories from when we were younger that have like no meaning for anybody but the two of us who lived through it. But it was
Yeah.
the feeling that we had when we lived through it that was important.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think recognizing like that you are creating those memories at every moment, and each one of them might be one that's going to be one you remember forever, and that people will remember about you. right? Like mentioning legacy, like that I think is the important thing, is that you have an impact on people.
Yeah, man, for sure. It's reminds me of the historical documentary Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh yes.
Where Uncle Rico, he spends half the movie, most of the movie, talking about how he could have gone pro, and he tries to,
Yeah.
he throws a stake at Napoleon, and he throws the,
Yeah.
the football. He wants to go over the
Oh,
mountain.
over the mountains. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and everything, Kip's all into it, and he's telling these stories, but they're so hollow. Like we know that they're just like, but I think the coolest part of that, I'm joking. It's not a historical documentary, just in case you're wondering.
If you live in that town, which is an undefined town,
well,
maybe it is. Maybe it is.
Honestly, I feel like I live that life, so
Yeah.
let's back off of that. Let's save that one for later. But at the end of the movie, he reunites with his girlfriend or his wife or whoever she was, and there's just this sweet moment of him kind of like relinquishing the past and living in the present.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, oh. Now that was a sweet moment, him rattling on about his war stories were funny, but they were all hollow.
I never thought I would hear somebody using Uncle Rico as like the positive part of that movie to try to like emulate in some
triumph.
way.
That's triumph.
I guess it is. I never, I honestly never really thought. I thought it was kind of odd and silly like that last scene. I know exactly the scene you're talking about. But I never like interpreted it that way. That's super interesting.
See? Read 4 books at the same time. You look at life different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great talk, Kirby.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good stuff. Nothing to do with tech or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Although I do wonder. I wonder sometimes, like I can think about this sometimes, like how much does my life represent what other people go through in some way, right? Like do the struggles I've had, do the things I think about, the things I worry about, the things I feel, like are those similar to the things other people think about, worry about, and feel, and like how far off are we? I mean, this is why like diversity and all that is important, because it's not the case, but like I do think there are some of these things that we do share kind of universally, and I do think like back to the writings, you can see that through the history of humanity, although obviously we're seeing one angle of that. Only one history, one like lineage through but I suspect a lot of those struggles that we talk about are fairly universal, if not the exact ones, or the way we experience them or how we respond to them. I'm sure can be quite different. And in fact, there's a reason there's different religions and different like perspectives on life across different areas. I know people respond and adapt to those struggles differently, but But I do think there are things that we all share. I mean, life is a struggle at times. Certainly.
Yeah. I think. I think I totally agree. There's an underlying DNA to each one of us, like a thread based one. And I do think while life is difficult, I think it's easy to get wrapped up in the difficulty of it and forget how great it is. And how beautiful it is, and how beautiful the like you were saying, just this diverse cacophony of humanity, man. Just people have such unique perspectives and distinct ideals and goals and everything, but it all feels like a never-ending marathon.
Yeah.
And I wonder what would happen if we just started walking instead of running.
Yeah, I think that's very real. Definitely a thing for me to ponder. Maybe I'll ponder it on a walk later today. No, I do think it's interesting. Like slowing down, I think is something I'm certainly not great at.
Yeah.
Although, yeah, when I'm being lazy, I'm not moving, so I guess I'm good at it in that respect. But I think it's also less about it is walking. I think walking is a good way to put it because it's not sitting. I
Yeah.
think it's not just like not moving or not changing or not adapting or not like involving yourself with the world. So I think
Right.
walking is a better analogy there, that it is about like moving through the world in some way and enjoying it and experiencing it,
Yeah.
but not running. I mean, it's like when you drive a car, you don't see the same things you see when you're riding a bike, and when
Mm-hmm.
you're riding a bike, you don't see the same things you see when you're walking. But if you're sitting at home doing nothing, you're not seeing anything at all, right?
Yeah. You're not seeing anything new.
Yeah, not seeing anything new. And so walking is probably the right pace, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's moving forward, it's moving around. I mean, it doesn't have to be forward even, right? But you're having the experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, it's super interesting. And then we all know we got to go for more walks.
Oh
Like
man.
there's never been any health related story or finding, eggs one day are great for you, and then the next
Yeah.
day they're going to kill you, and then the next
Yeah.
day they're great for you. Nobody's ever said walking is like
Mm-mm.
bad for you.
But they're
Like
always
that.
tasty. The eggs are
Yeah,
always tasty. Yeah.
yeah. Although until you remember you're eating eggs, like do you ever have that moment where you're eating eggs and you're like, oh my god, this is the worst thing I've ever
Yeah. Yeah.
I've
This
ever
is really
experienced. Like,
unfortunate. Yeah.
suddenly disgusting, but then the next
Pass
day
the
I'm eating eggs
salsa.
again.
Like
Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah.
that's the worst. You're awful. It's terrible. That's awful.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
laughing at that.
Now I completely lost my train of thought, but that's okay. That's life,
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please like and comment below, and also think about subscribing.